All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Wapiti Live Q&A for December 6th, 2023. Man, we're knocking on the door at the end of the year. We're only going to have oh, one more, two more sessions before we close out the year. So, all right. So, tonight, tandem calling. Tandem calling is something that I have incorporated, in our calling routines for several years. It's an effective calling tactic that if you have real quiet forests, just adding another person calling back and forth just really adds a lot of excitement into the forest. And you can actually take a quiet forest and you can almost force bulls to get lit up. And we'll kind of talk about some different scenarios and get into them. We'll start with the first one since Mr. Knox is joining us here, making his official debut on live Q and A's. Um, so first one that we do a lot is kind of cow vocalizations. We kind of call it excited herd. You guys know a lot of times in my group, so there is a lot of times that we will hunt with threes, um, but just two can do this as well. The key on this is if there's only two of you, you've already determined who the shooter is. And it's kind of tricky when you're doing this because you never know what you're going to get. And man, your head has to be on a swivel because you will get anything from elk sneaking in quietly to bulls just start ripping bugles and just come in. Now, the nice thing is with two of you, if you get a bull that starts ripping bugles, whoever the shooter is goes quiet and they slip in line between the caller and the bull to intercept him. It's not as tricky when they come rolling in silent because you will get caught with your pants down, which has happened to us numerous times. I remember one time, I think Brandon was the only one with a tag left. Bryce and I were there, and we had kind of taken a break for midday, and we were laying down. And I laid down with my head on the pack, and I tilted the hat down over the eyes, and I told Brandon, you need to knock an arrow. You need to be scanning all the way around us, and you need to be ready. And those guys were laughing because I fell asleep enough that I was snoring just slightly, but they said that I would be snoring with the reed hanging. And, and so I'd pop the reed in my mouth and make a couple of cow sounds and go back to snoring. And then all of a sudden, all this commotion just starts going. And it woke me up. I sit up just in time to see a spike and a cow just take off running. And I was like, what the heck just happened? And Brandon's like, a cow and a cat, or a cow and a spike came into about 9 yards. And I was like, well, was the commotion them taking off when you shot? And he kind of dropped his head and he goes, after about 5, 10 minutes of you calling, I got a little bit bored, so I kind of laid down too. And then next thing I know, I heard a twig snap and I kind of opened my eyes and there's the spike broadside at 9 yards. And so I tried to knock an arrow, draw my bow, and sit up all at the same time so I could execute the shot. It didn't work very well. And I'm like, dude, that is why you pay attention. So, especially if you're the shooter. But no, it's a lot of fun. You can feed off each other. And usually what we'll do in this, we'll get 15, 20 yards apart. So if there's three of us, we actually form a triangle. If there's two of us, we just kind of try and stay on the same elevation plane. So Mr. Knox and I are just going to kind of call back and forth a little bit, just kind of like we do with the excited cow sound. Now, remember, what you're doing is you're basically portraying a group of cows that are, they're communicating back and forth. They're up, they're milling around a little bit, they're feeding. So, okay, you ready?
Sure.
Okay. So it's just
Good
kind of
job.
muse and chirps kind of mixed in together, but you're just kind of talking back and forth, and there's no set on the sounds, and you can start nice and easy like that, and then you can ramp up the excitement level to where you get a lot more vocalizations, you get some regathering muse, you can throw some buzz muse in there, and just really have a lot of fun with it. um okay, you good?
Good job.
You gonna do one more for the road?
Sure.
There you go. Okay.
Good job.
Yeah,
Love
good
you.
job.
Bye-bye.
So, and in fact, a lot of times what we do is we kind of start mimicking one another, and it turns into, okay, mimic me. And it usually starts with Brandon being a little smart aleck, and he will start mimicking the sounds that I'm doing, trying to make them sound better. And so I will get more technical on the sounds. So, and we've done this so many times, and we get to the point where we're laughing so freaking hard. I remember one time we were up on this steep incline that goes down into a little basin, and those guys decided that they wanted to learn how to buzz mew. And so I'm teaching them how to buzz mew, and they're spitting and sputtering and laughing and buzz mewing. And next thing I know, I look down and I'm like, guys, there's a cow. They're like, where? 18 yards. Where? Right below us. And they look down. Where the heck did she come from? And I'm like, I don't know, but she's there and she's staring at us. So the main point on these tandem callings is just have fun with it. So, and like I said, that one you can start off small and light like that, and then you can really ramp up the excitement level. You can even move around a little bit and give that appearance of movement and milling around. So, okay. So that's the excited cow. The other one that we do that is effective, especially early in the year, I mean, we're talking the first day or two of season. So we will do a bull only vocalization. And it's basically, I mean, it starts with location bugles, and we'll start a little farther apart, and then we'll come together on this one a little bit closer. But it's portraying a story of there's a bull that it starts off usually just with the caller that's doing some bugling and some raking and some huffs, grunts, and whines, and he's just kind of advertising and saying, hey, I'm right here. And then you get that other bull that bugles, and especially this works really well, like I said, in the early part of the season when they're establishing their pecking order. And then you two start feeding off each other, and then you can really ramp up the excitement on the bugling side of it, because now you're two bulls coming together that are basically kind of feeling each other out, and establishing that pecking order. Who's the big dog, who's going to have the breeding rights in this area. And man, you can get aggressive with the raking, and I mean, I've broken sticks on trees swinging them like a baseball bat to get that loud crack of an antler hitting the trees. And this is usually where Brandon will really start to mimic the bugles that I'm doing. And this is then I would say competitive smart aleck me starts going into competition calling mode. There's sounds that I do on stage that I do not do out in the woods hunting. But when Brandon starts getting his little too big for his britches, I'm going to start bugling and mimicking you. And again, we did this last year. We were on the mountainside, and I mean early in the year, and we were bugling back and forth. And I mean it got to the point with the mimicking each other, and we were actually, if somebody did something that was kind of made you laugh, we would kind of do a laughing chuckle to let the other person know that we were laughing and we were doing this stuff back and forth. And then lo and behold, about 100 yards to the right of me, a bull cracks off, and it's like, oops, time to get to work and time to get serious here. It snaps you back in. He actually caught us in a position and came in quick enough that the wind was not favorable. We didn't have enough time to reposition. So, but again, that's another example where it took a quiet. I mean, we had been sitting up there glassing and kind of doing periodic locating for probably an hour and 45 minutes without a response. And within 15 minutes of us bugling back and forth and that kind of stuff, we had a response. So, and what we did on that one, since the bull was coming from my direction, we all had our bows. Since the bull was on my side, I went quiet. So I became the shooter on that one. Had they gotten a response on their side, they would have gone quiet and slipped into position for the shot. So okay, so you have the cow, then you have the double bull. Now you come into my absolute favorite. And this one is so much fun to do with a tandem partner. You guys know I love the breeding sequence, but that breeding sequence goes to a whole other level when you add a second caller into the realm. You add double amount of cows, you add a second bull in here, and the first time we did this, so we were in Jurassic Park. I had been in there 3 times already. Had worked a 5x5 in there a couple of times. Um, should have shot him the first evening when I went in there, but we're in there, and I mean nothing. And this was the last day of the season 2 years ago. And so Bryce, Brandon, myself, and Kevin all went in there, and we put Bryce and Kevin out as the shooters. And no, actually, originally it was going to be Kevin, Bryce, and myself as shooters, with Brandon kind of in the middle, just kind of working back and forth. And after about an hour, I look back there, and that kid's on his phone, not doing a whole lot of calling. So I decided to move back and help him with some calling, and said, okay. I said, let's ramp up this uh, breeding sequence. I said, I'm going to act like the herd bull with the cows. I said, we'll start with some cows back and forth, and then once we ramp into it, I want you to introduce a bull into this. And so I started doing the breeding sequence, and he was doing the cow sounds with me. And after about 10 minutes, he introduced a second bull into the mix. And we kind of bugled back and forth. And then finally, I started ramping up the aggression level. That, in fact, I was waiting. I had the reed in my mouth. I had my tube sitting there. I was just waiting for him to start bugling. And I bugled over the top of him, and he stopped his bugle and looked over at me and tilted his head like, okay, it's on. And then we just ramped up that competition for that hot cow. But we got to the point where we really ramped up the aggression and the bugling, that we got about 10, 15 yards apart, and we just started mirroring each other, just like two bulls will do. Two bulls will get next to each other and mirror each other. And what they're doing is they're kind of sizing each other up. And man, we were doing that, and we were having so much fun. And next thing we know, there was 4 different bulls that were bugling. Kevin could see legs of bulls running through the jack pines, and Bryce was seeing that 5 point coming on a string. And I mean, it just took that. Now mind you, Brandon had been calling for an hour plus before that. And we were only 15, 20 minutes in of doing this tandem when it lit the forest up. I mean, the big boy up on the top of the knob started just groaning at us, and it just lit the forest up. And they weren't strolling in gingerly. They were flat out trotting in. The hard part we had on that one is because of how open it was, Brandon and I weren't far enough back behind the shooters. So once that 5 point got close enough that he saw Brandon and I walking. If we had been on the other side of the little creek, we would have been fine and he would have just came strolling right on by. But that is one thing that I, I mean, I have a lot of fun when I'm doing the breeding sequence, anyways. But man, you get a second person involved that you can both feed off of each other. That man, you can have a lot of fun and just freeform it. I mean, there's no script. I mean, just think about, the excitement of a herd with a hot cow and how everything goes. In fact, I've been trying to. I've got an external hard drive that won't let me open it up anymore, but I I, I hope that they can get that thing working because I've got 5, 6 years worth of footage on that from when I was filming for the TV show, and I have probably about almost an hour's worth of clips. Longest one is about 26 minutes of a herd in Colorado that has a hot cow, and man, the vocalizations. I've been trying to grab that footage so I can drop it in the online course, for the breeding sequence so you guys can hear that breeding sequence with actual elk and the excitement and the vocalizations and the volume. And then, you get that pictured in your head, you get a partner and you guys replicate that same thing. So, but just remember, if there's only two of you, if you do get a bull. Now, the nice thing is with the breeding sequence, oh, the breeding sequence and the double bull scenario will elicit bugles. Very rarely do they sneak in silently, so it is something that you are notified. But it's kind of one of those things, and here's the thing with both of these. You don't want the shooter to stop calling. If that bull's still 3, 4, 500 yards out, keep going with the tandem, but really paying attention because he's going to bugle and bugle and bugle on his way in. When he hits about that 200-yard mark, that's when the shooter needs to go quiet and position. You can already rotate a little bit so that way the shooter is closer, that he doesn't have to move that much when he goes silent, but he needs to move some because those elk, again, remember, are really really good at pinpointing where that sound is coming from. So if you're kind of hearing that bull's out in front as a triangle and you kind of shift this way, he's still going to know where this guy is. And so that shooter that's moving closer to him, he needs to check the wind and he needs to move up 30, 40 yards if he can, but just something to get that bull to walk by him. But tandem calling is it's a go-to that we will hit anytime we have quiet forests, just because it's something that works so effectively well at pulling bugles out of bulls and getting their excitement level ramped up, that, like I said, you can go from a stone cold quiet day to multiple bulls bugling. And in a way it kind of pisses you off a little bit because then all of a sudden you dawns on you that they've been there the whole stinking time and just have been flat out ignoring you. And that's just like, oh, you SOBs. It's just, but that's all that's all the fun of it. So, any questions?
I got one for you, Michael. Um, so where I'm probably going to end up going next year is a spike only unit.
Okay.
If I'm doing a spike only unit, would you advise avoiding the bull routine because it's probably going to be bring in the big boys and just stay with the cow routine?
The cow routine and the breeding sequence. So,
Okay.
because spikes are, I don't know if you guys remember last year. In fact, I've got the video. You can't see the elk, but I was kind of doing sound files for the prototype of the V3 reeds last year, but I was also kind of filming a breeding sequence. And all of a sudden I looked up and here's a 5 point and a spike, full on dead trot down the chute right towards us. And I mean that 5 point stopped at about 12 yards from me. The spike was back a little bit more, but no, spikes will come rolling into that also, especially early in the year, when they're still kind of hanging out in their groups. I mean, generally the spikes are still in with the cows and calves just because they're still a little bit younger. But man, this spike was hanging out kind of with a 5 point and bachelor group. I've had it times 3, 4 years ago where there was a group of three spikes that just came rolling into us doing the breeding sequence. So, but yeah, the bull only, I would stay away from that one because you can intimidate them pretty good. But yeah, the excited cow and the breeding sequence would work on spikes absolutely.
Yeah, the guy I'll probably be
Yeah.
going with, he's not much of a caller, so I'm thinking getting him the easy sucker, and we can do a little tandem. He can just work with that.
Yeah, have them take a look at the Easy Sucker or the Enchantress from Slayer, because the nice thing about Enchantress is you can do those cow sounds and you can also attach it onto a bugle and do some bugling also.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet.
In your talk, you mentioned that you had a bull coming in quickly, uh, so much so that you didn't have time to position yourself to get down, where the wind is pushing your scent. So if you move to get your scent not going in that direction, how long will your scent stay coming from that area you were at, even if your tracks will leave some kind of scent?
Well, and that's where on this one, so basically what it was I kind of had kind of a group of trees just up on the right side of me. And so I was wanting, and thermals were kind of blowing up through that. And what that guy did was he looped up above those trees. What I was going to do was I was going to loop around those trees. So I was going to use the edge of the trees as my walking path, but then I had something behind me and I just wanted to get up a little bit in case he did come up above us because we were sitting on the same plane. Um, Bryce and Brandon and I. So I wanted to get up a little bit because I knew that bull would be coming, upwind, and I just didn't get a chance to get around that tree. But usually, if you kind of do a half moon, you don't have to worry about your tracks because they're going to walk by you in a shooting lane before they get to your tracks that are on the ground, and you don't have to worry about that. But how long will your scent stay? I mean, that big 6x6 that was coming in this year that stopped and smelt my footprints, that was probably 45 minutes to an hour after we had walked through there.
Interesting.
Yes, Knox. I already said come in.
Oh. I kind of just wanted to come back.
Because you want to be on camera still. So,
Yeah.
see, Knox wants to start his own YouTube channel when he hits 13. So he's starting to want to be on camera and
Yeah.
figure out all this
Right now, I have no
stuff.
idea what's going on.
So, but yeah, so if you just do that half moon, Greg, you don't have to worry about it. Just where a lot of people make the mistake is they go the straight line and then they get off the trail. And so they do this L pattern. And so the problem is they're sitting over here right where their track is on the trail. It's okay to do the L, but then turn that L into a Z. So that makes sense?
Yes.
So, okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, I just have a comment. I can see where that tandem would work because when you and Knox were doing it, it sounded 3D, if you will.
Yeah,
You had a whole new dimension to it.
it does. And now imagine being, 10, 15, 20 yards apart.
Right.
And especially when you're turning your head and throwing that in all directions. and you've got multiple sounds that are being thrown in different directions. And the other nice thing too is remember when we talked about the hoochie mama, the one frequency that they clued into. This one gives you the ability to give so many different sounds of deep and high and short and long, and everybody has a little bit different cadence and a little bit different tone that it adds a lot of realism into your calling setup. And the other thing too is the elk aren't sitting there going, oh, that's Greg. That's Greg sitting down there. All of a sudden it's like, I don't think Greg can sound like 6, 7, 8 different elk. That's so, and it just plugs that curiosity. I mean, that's what's cool about elk is a lot of times they become so curious of wanting to know who is down there, who is making all that noise, where did they come from? So, but yeah,
Fritz
it does.
and I
It
have
does. What's that?
Fritz and I have used that breeding sequence quite a bit the last couple of years, and it's we may not get them to come in within shooting range, but they will make themselves visible
Yeah.
on a fringe somewhere because they're curious.
hmm
So it has produced.
A lot of times, especially if you're in a scenario that if you're in kind of a lower depression and they're still bedded a little bit higher, they will come out on those elevated points, because remember that you can see better looking down than you can looking up. So they'll come out on those points looking down. And that's where now add a decoy into the element, because if you know your hunt area pretty well and you know that elk's going to come out on this point, and you position a decoy down there where you are, knowing that if they come out on that point and look, they are going to see that decoy. Man, now they get a visual element with all that audio element. And it's just, I hate packing decoys, but I will once in a while just because they are effective. So I've got a Montana decoy rump that I don't even take the poles. I put a little paracord and I just find a branch to throw that little paracord up. And nice thing is too, because of that, then it gets a little bit of movement from the wind. And so that one I don't mind because it's light enough that you can collapse and just put on the outside of your pack that if you need to grab it. The butt head from Native by Carlton, I like that one because it has a 3D face. But that thing it's a pain to carry. It's a pain to pack. So, but yeah, adding decoys into that element add just another dimension. So, okay. Anything else on tandem calling? Okay. We're going to wrap this up tonight with another topic. So I don't know if you guys saw my poll question that I put out the other day. So it has been very, very interesting. So I did a poll question and I asked people, on average, how much money do you spend each year to hunt elk? And it's kind of interesting, especially on Facebook. There's a lot more responses on Facebook, but it's interesting looking at the amounts that people pay. I don't even know these people. Don't know where they live, but just on the dollar amounts, I can go down that list and I can tell you who's a resident, who's a non-resident, who lives close by their elk hunting ground, and who has to drive a little bit farther. So there's one guy that responded, I think he missed a 0. So, because he's saying this year he paid $250 and spent 20 days hunting elk in God's country. And I said, now, mind you, in your amount, I want you to include tags, gas, food, anything else that you spent on your hunt. And I'm like, $250 for tag, gas, and food for 20 days? I think he missed a 0. I think that should have been $2,500. So
That or he was eating elk.
oh yeah, maybe he was just catching fish and eating berries. He was eating off the land. Who knows? But I know just on my hunts alone, I just on gas, I probably spent $500-600 just on gas alone.
His wife was sitting next to him when he was answering the
You
question.
know what? And that was a popular response too, because a lot of guys were like, "Do you want me to tell you what I actually spent or what I told my wife I spent?" There, that was a popular response too. So, but
Well, I
That's
answered
three
you.
different
I
numbers.
put in like $800 to $900.
yeah, which to me, as a resident with tags and food and gas, I mean, yeah, I would bet $800 to $1,000 pretty easily.
I'm at 1,000.
Yeah.
As
So
as a non-resident hunting New Mexico, I figure I'm probably in around 1,500.
really, okay.
Yeah, and that's camping out too.
So that was interesting because some non-residents, there was a few non-residents that said they spent $10,000
Oh my gosh!
for over the counter hunts.
Whoa!
So,
Wow.
there was other guys that were in the 35 to 4 grand range, but I mean it was an interesting little poll question to throw out there. And I mean, now there is a reasoning for my poll question. So, because I'm going to get averages, and that's I'm going to basically incorporate that into the marketing campaigns for 2024. But yeah, then I'm probably tomorrow or Friday going to post another poll question that's going to be the number of days that people hunt elk each year. So um, it's yeah, it's been interesting, that's for sure. So okay,
Yeah, I think if I included the gear because I've been slowly trying to up my quantity and quality of gear, I'd be getting up in that $1,500 range.
yeah,
But normally I'd be closer to that 800 to 1,000 probably.
yeah. Well, and that's what some people said too. Okay, in their totals also included them upgrading some gear, this year, which that's all kind of part of it. So it definitely goes in, but um, yeah, I'm gonna have to. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all that information. I'm gonna plug all the dollar amounts into an Excel spreadsheet. I'm gonna try to. I'm going to try to separate resident versus non-resident. So that way, kind of the average for a resident is this amount, kind of an average for non-residents or kind of this amount, just to kind of give kind of a clear picture. But yeah, it definitely pretty interesting. I had to laugh too. There was one guy that, those keyboard warriors. I don't answer any poll questions like this online.
But yeah, he's
You just
answering.
answered it.
I know. I'm like, you responded. So, I mean, did you feel the 60 some comments and felt like that you just had to contribute with some negatory type response or
Yeah.
what? I mean, I don't
That's
get it.
funny.
If you don't have anything to contribute or add positively to a conversation, just move on. Keep
Yeah,
scrolling.
yeah.
So,
Years and years ago, when cell phones came out, and if you made long distance calls, then you had to pay fee for, and one of the national news outlets had put a poll question out there, and you replied yes or no. And at the end of the commercial, they got 2,000 responses. Two of the responses said, "I don't know." Wait, you had to pay.
Trying to
sometimes
look that stuff up.
sometimes simple instructions are the most difficult to follow.
Oh,
So, somebody's always got to try to ice skate uphill and just go against the grain. So
Is it too late for me to respond to that poll question?
no, not at all. Not at all.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
go.
do that, and I'll look for the next one then.
Okay, yeah. I'll probably post it tomorrow or Friday. I've got I've got so much that working on. So Mr. Sandy, in response to your question, I still have not found on the current platform the ability for you to upgrade your payment method. With that being said, I am switching the hosting in the online course to a different platform. So it's much cleaner, much more user friendly. I know right now when go in and trying to find the different modules and all that kind of stuff, it's just it's not bad. Just this new one's kind of nice because all on the left hand side you're going to see the full each of the different modules, each of the different videos that are in, each of the individual lessons that are in there. And then on the right hand side, you actually have a larger hosted video screen. Much more user friendly. So my goal is to make that transition in January. For you guys, I'm hoping it's going to be seamless because you're still going to go to elkcallingacademy.com. You're not going to see anything different. You're just going to see a different login page. Your logins hopefully will transfer over seamlessly. So just bear with me in that transition. We might have some bugs to work out, but I think you're going to be much happier with the new layout.
Cool.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's kind of like when I get my bow all set up and just driving tacks that I'm not happy with it. I have to tinker with something. So I know the online course and the new website is so much better than the Patreon page, but I just got to tinker. I'm just trying to make a much better user interface and experience, provide more value, better lessons, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm constantly tinkering and working. So
That's constant QA. Yeah, just keep at it.
it is, and yeah, you're gonna see kind of some different. So the way it's gonna be, it's gonna be a series of mini courses, or you're going to have the bundle deal with everything. So there's going to be, the getting started elk calling mastery, which is just getting started on a diaphragm read, all the cow vocalizations, all the bull vocalizations is one mini course. Then you have elk hunting mastery, which is all the stuff out in the field with e-scouting and all that stuff. There's going to be a mini course just on externals, and then there's going to be an add-on for live Q&As. So it's almost, you'll be able to pick and choose, but you guys that have been longtime supporters, you guys are going to get that whole full-blown package bundle where you're going to get access to everything. So
Cool.
Sweet.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks to you guys for continuing to support and putting up with this Yahoo.
Knox is a nice addition.
Oh, hey,
Yeah,
hand me that, please.
this.
Yes.
Okay, here you go.
You guys know how I like making monster bugles,
Oh, God.
and I like piecing different things together.
I'm just gonna stand
So.
over here for this.
Is this your funnel?
I'm over here now.
The blue snap-on reed.
Primos?
Don't sound like the old Primos Terminator, does it? It's got a little bit more depth to it.
How come?
Wow.
You put a new end on it. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing that, man, I've been playing around with this and the sounds that you can replicate on this. And what's kind of funny is since I've been playing around with this and some of these videos that some of these photographers and stuff have been posting on Instagram and stuff, I'm listening to the audio and vocalization of that bull and I'm like, that sounds exactly like this tube. And I have multiple tube tamers on here that take the plastic vibration out. So you guys might see a lot of videos of me next year blowing on this thing and having a lot of fun with that blue snap-on reed.
It's a
So
real trachea. That's what it is.
it is. And actually what I'm going to do is, again, talk about tinkering. So I have the actual Terminator tube out there that I'm going to take about 7 inches of that Terminator tube, and then I'm going to hot glue that onto an old bully bull that I have. I'll cut part of the bully bull off and marry it onto that and just see if there's a difference of, this tube versus that Terminator tube. And then I'm also going to go grab a power bugle and grab 7 inches of the power bugle and attach that onto another wiffle ball bat style that I have that will accept, this mouthpiece. And so we're just going to do some audio testing and rolling into next season. I'm going to have the nice Frankenstein bugle that I'm sure Bryce is going to look at me and go, "What the hell is that?"
You're going to hit it one of these days with that, and there'll be a Batiste bugle tube on the market, and you'll be taken off.
Can you hang that back? Yeah, that's part of what I'm kind of playing with, but part two, I don't know if I want to do it. I mean, I know I've developed tubes for other companies. I don't know if I want to come out with my own, because then it looks like I'm mimicking Elk Bros, and don't want to do that. I'm going to leave it to where they are mimicking me so much that I don't want to go the other route.
Give it to Boise Native by Carlton.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, maybe I'll it's been a while since I've talked to Will. Maybe I'll give old Wilbur a call and say, "Hey, I've got an upgrade for your Terminator."
Sounded good though.
Oh, that thing, it's just in outside, it just, it's night and day outside versus inside. So I was actually blowing on that a little bit when was up on Liz's rifle hunt. So you remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah. When
Well,
you were
how
grabbing,
how did the rifle hunt go? Oh, I didn't get a report.
we were just right behind him all the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I mean, I'd pick a spot and go there and nothing, and then I was like, well, let's go over to Plan B spot and go to Plan B, and here's fresh tracks. Had we been there first light, they would have been right there. And then there was another couple of little off spur roads that my gut was telling me to go up, and then I didn't. And then I talked to my buddy that had been up there hunting the first part of the season, and he's like, "There was so many rubs and so many bulls in that, you should have gone up there." And I was like, it looked like every four-wheeler and side-by-side had been running up there. And he goes, "That was only me." He goes, "I was the one that was running up there." And he goes, "In fact, I was back home when you guys were up there hunting," because he got hit with a bad case of vertigo. And so he actually packed up his trailer and went back home. So he goes, "Yeah, all those tracks." He goes, "I was purposely going up and down and up and down and up and down that road because I wanted to give the appearance that everybody and their dog was going in there so that nobody would go in there." I was like, "Well, Shane, it worked for me. I didn't go in there." So, and no, it ended up that Liz made the determination that she's done with over-the-counter hunts, that she wants to just put in for draw hunts. And I basically told her a step further that instead of putting in for rifle hunts, she just needs to spend this winter, spring, and summer getting really proficient with her bow, and she just comes bow hunting with me.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and in fact, that leads into another announcement. So because of that, she decided that she wants a new bow, even though the bow that I gave her only has like 2, maybe 300 shots on it. It is the Bowtech Carbon Rose. So here in the next couple of days, I will be announcing a raffle, 100 tickets, $20 per slot, and you're going to get almost a fully set up Bowtech Carbon Rose. The only thing it's not going to have is a stabilizer. It'll have a sight, rest, everything.
Wow.
Nice support.
Wow.
Yes.
So you could have gone, "Wow, that is a great deal. $20 for a chance to win a $1,300 bow."
I was doing that in my mind, if it's going to help at all.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, this thing's basically it's I mean, when I was a factory shooter for Bowtech, I got 2 free bows every year. And so one of the year I actually grabbed the Carbon Rose for my ex-wife. And then when Liz and I got together, I actually bought that bow. So I kind of understand why Liz wants a new bow that is her bow, not kind of a hand-me-down. But this thing, yeah, it's brand new. I think total, I would say less than 300 shots on this thing. The strings aren't even hardly broken in yet.
It's called a Carbon Rose.
Yep, a Bowtech Carbon Rose.
Hmm.
You want to go grab it?
Which one is it?
It's the black and purple.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say it's the pink one.
No,
Oh, that would be right there on the wall right there.
Yeah, kind of a bit of a struggle over here.
that's all right.
So is that what you shoot, Jim?
That's my wife's bow.
And that's what she shoots?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, she actually shoots, it's actually a PSE.
What's the
Ah,
but
draw
it's
length
pink.
on that?
It's pink.
The draw length's adjustable.
Okay.
So I think it goes out to 27. So, and this is the 50-pound limbs. So, but yeah, it's carbon fiber, extremely light. So yeah, we'll be doing the raffle for that. So, thank you, sir. So, this is my Vanna White.
Good job.
So,
Good job, Knox.
all right, guys. Any other questions tonight?
No, it was a good session.
Good. So, all right. Tandem calling, definitely something you can add into your mix. And the nice thing is too, if you hunt with a partner that's not proficient with a diaphragm reed, there's so many externals now. The Easy Sucker, the Enchantress. There's a lot of options out there that.
The Easy Sucker is easy.
So there's a lot of options out there that you both can contribute and have a lot of fun with it. So,
Cool.
all right, guys, with that being said, we're going to wrap up tonight. Again, appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. As always, keep calling, keep practicing. More importantly, though, have fun. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And I have no idea what that topic is going to be. I guess I better get that figured out between now and then.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take
All right,
care.
Thank you.
All right, guys, have a
Thanks,
good night.
Michael.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Knox.